Daily Broadside, day 536. I'm going to talk about the Boy Scouts of America today. I was pretty pissed off yesterday evening. I watched the new Boy Scouts of America 90-minute documentary on Netflix, and I knew there were some improprieties going on. I'd heard about their bankruptcy and all that stuff, but dear God, I mean, those people make the Catholic Church look like Forrest Gump, like in terms of morality. Gear, it's crazy, right? Like, there have been to date at least 82,000 young men who have come forward saying that they were sexually abused by scout masters and leaders and whatnot in that organization. And I never thought about it, but they at one point bring up the point of where would you have unadulterated access to young boys in a sleepover situation without any parents around for an entire weekend. And I was like, damn, that is kind of a pedophile's playground. Yeah. And then I got to thinking, I was like, I was in the Scouts, right? My parents, through my church that I grew up in, I went through Cub Scouts and Webelos and then the Boy Scouts, right? By the time I got to Boy Scouts, I was pretty much like a delinquent. And I just enjoyed the outdoor stuff, the camping, the archery, the building things, the knots, all the hiking and orienteering and pioneering. I liked all the stuff that the outdoors, had to offer. I loved to camp and all that stuff, but I could care less about the trustworthy, loyal, friendly, helpful, courteous, brave, thrifty, reverent. But I was the opposite of a lot of those. So I didn't really uphold the ideals. But then I got to thinking, I was like, did I miss something? I mean, I wasn't sexually abused, but did I miss like some signs? And I was like, I don't think I did in my troop. I was like, because the 3 or 4 leaders, quote unquote, that we had that ran ours, that first of all, they all had sons in the group that were like my age or a little bit younger, which that would have been kind of weird, if you were trying to like diddle some boy and your son was in the room. That'd be kind of awkward. But so I mean, it wasn't like the normal what it appeared in the documentary. It was all like it was a lot of single men, right, that were doing a lot of these heinous crimes. And there was one guy, and his name was Coley, right? Colie. I went to school with a guy who had the last name of Coley. I always thought it'd be cool if they married. Even though one of them would have been like 16, the other one would have been like 50, but he'd have been Coley. But that's neither here nor there. But Coley and I did not see eye to eye. We didn't get along. In fact, he hated me. And I remember it was a ski trip, and we went to Appalachian State University, where I later went to college, and we stayed in one of the school buildings. They like let us like sleep in a classroom on the floor with sleeping bags kind of thing. And it's like a 3 or 4 story building, one of the original buildings on the campus, that later I had a freshman class in, which was kind of weird. But as soon as I got there, we're roaming around, just being, boys. And I'm probably like 12. And I went down in the basement and found the breaker panel and killed the breaker to the entire building. And so there was no electricity whatsoever. And it's like the dead of winter, right? So there's no lights or anything. I don't think I killed the heat probably, but there were no lights. There's no electricity. And Coley had a problem with this, and he confronted me in the dark hallway, and he ended up slamming me up against the wall and putting, his forearm against my throat, and I just laughed and laughed, because that's what I did, just mocked people and, made them more angry. And I refused to tell him where the panel was. So he spent like the better part of an hour searching that building to, finally bring the lights back on. But so to say that Coley and I, didn't have the best of relationship. In fact, I remember one time we were at scout camp for the summer, like for like a week, right? Which was like 30 minutes away from the town I grew up in. And at one point I found out he was going back into town for something, right? And so he had like a K car. It was like a powder blue K car station wagon, front wheel drive. And so the rear axle was just like a solid beam. It was just a bar across that connected the 2 tires. So I went out there and tied a clove hitch or a sheep shank or a half hitch, one of those knots that I learned in camp. I tied a tree trunk to his car and shoved it up under the back axle. I thought he'd find it, but he drove to town. And when he got back, there was nothing left but like part of the wood. Like he drove it all the way into town and back. I was always putting rocks in his hubcaps, and they would make all this god awful noise and all. But could you imagine the sight of somebody just dragging a damn? He must have had a hell of a stereo in there to not hear that damn log bouncing around on the highway at 55 miles an hour. Pulls into his driveway, and how he didn't like pull in and then back over it when he turned around, but somehow it made it back. He didn't find out about that till much later, and he was livid. But I say that to say this. I looked it up last night, and he died last summer, and he was 80. And I was like, damn, I was 13, and this is, so he was like my age now, so it would be like me and a 13-year-old hating each other, And I was like, I wonder if Coley could have molested somebody or whatever. And I was like, I just don't see it. I think the people that I was surrounded with truly wanted to help, people, young men, like, learn skills in life and all that stuff. And I just was a dick about a lot of things and all. But I will say this on a more serious note. That documentary pissed me off to no end, because if I could erase one thing from this world, if I could pick, it wouldn't be cancer, it wouldn't be homelessness, it wouldn't be world hunger, it wouldn't even be fucking world peace, okay? It would be sex abuse. And that includes rape, sodomy, just all the molestation, everything that encompasses that world. Because I'm going to tell you what, that to me does more damage in this society than anything else. I mean, if you look at drug addiction, if you look at any kind of addiction, you can usually get it back to some kind of abuse that they suffered at the hands of some asshole who took advantage of their innocence. And it scars them. It, mars them for the rest of their life. And I spent a large part of my professional career earlier in my life dealing with this stuff, and I saw it on a different level than most people see it, and the prevalence with which this stuff is pervasive through the United States, it is absolutely insane. And we're not even talking about sex trafficking and child trafficking and all that stuff. That's a whole other ball of wax. But if you could erase that, you would completely overnight change society, because those people they'll never get over that stuff. And I was really proud of the fact that so many people were coming forward, and that it wasn't this stigmata, like it used to be. Because, to get a guy to admit that he was molested by a man, or raped by a man and all that, that's difficult to do, and you've got 82,000 people, coming to it. And I guess I looked at it it was kind of bittersweet. On the one hand, I'm happy that it's coming forward, and I hope that those people atone that threw all that stuff under the rug. But at the same time, I was like, as big of a dick as I was to a lot of people, because I was eventually asked to leave the Scouts. Bugs Island, there was a fire. I was asked not to come back. So I was essentially kicked out of the Boy Scouts of America. So that's a story for another day. And but my experience was nothing but fun. I mean, yeah, I got in fights at camp, and I was just a dick kid. But I was just always provocative. I provoked people and ran my mouth, and that's just how I've always been. But the things that I learned, believe it or not, I still use to this day. Like a lot of those things, it's kind of weird, and it's sad that I had such a good experience, and so many people had such a rotten experience that they have to wake up to every day, and that's their, that's their reality. So if you want to be mad, if you want to be sad, watch it. It's a really good documentary. I was surprised it was only an hour and a half, but very well done, Netflix. And that's all I have to say about that. Hey, Giddy.